Do you guys remember the Senate parliamentarian? Biden got into office, and one of the things that they were talking about during the campaign was raising the minimum wage. And then they were like, but the Senate parliamentarian won't let us talk about the minimum wage. And like that was 3 years ago, and there's just been absolutely no movement or conversation. When the Senate parliamentarian told Bush he couldn't do X, they just fired him. You see what I mean? Like they're pretending to not be able to do things because if they actually raised the minimum wage, that would be bad for the corporate interests. So they can't actually do any of the things that they promised to do. Big problem with Biden is he didn't do half of what he claimed he would do in his first term. So what are we supposed to expect for a second term? That's what I'm saying. You know, we were supposed to get some kind of student debt relief. However, student debt payments have just resumed. We were supposed to get an increased minimum wage. We were supposed to get, like, we were discussing the possibility of, like, federally legalized cannabis. All these different things, allegedly, he could not do. Allegedly, we can't figure out. There's no political will to do anything that's going to actually help people. There is political will to continue the genocide against Palestinians. Like, welcome to alt history, the version of history where the United States was on Hitler's side. It's the fucking worst. And this is all happening under a Democratic president. Like, active genocide that we keep funding. There's no checks and balances on this, really. They can just do whatever they want, apparently. And they can just not do whatever they decide not to do, regardless of how many people want them to do it. I think Biden just assumes there's no way Trump can beat him, and he's not trying, which is exactly the mentality Hillary had. Yeah, I think that they're just banking on the idea that, oh, Trump is so obviously foolish and dumb that people won't want to vote for him. Or, oh, they obviously saw how much of a clown he was in his first term, obviously they won't vote for him. Or maybe they're not even concerned about him being on the ballot because of the whole insurrection and the 14th Amendment saying that it's basically not legal for him to run for president. They don't feel the need to earn your vote. They just don't feel like, they're like, oh, you're automatically going to vote for us. And that's the problem with vote blue no matter who, is because they can do bullshit like run as a progressive and then very shortly after they get into office, be like John Fetterman and go, yeah, I'm not really a progressive though. I'm like a normal centrist kind of Democrat. And it's like, stop lying, dude. Yes, Biden is terrible, but looking at it another way, the way to get Democrat primary voters to move left is for Democrats to win more. I don't know if that's actually the case. Hey, real quick, hit the like button if you're enjoying the content. Hit the subscribe button as well and turn on all notifications. And also take a moment to check out the links in the description for merchandise and Patreon, where you can find exclusive free content. Biden is just a blue Republican, TBH. Right, you know, border detentions. They put money toward building the wall. They stopped doing any kind of pandemic stuff, like, you know, no more economic relief. They're, you know, not sending out guidance about masking, just kind of like letting it rip. All these things that Biden criticized Trump for during his campaign, he's just doing them. He's just doing all of it. My faith in our government is at an all-time low, which is impressive because I've been at several all-time lows before and thought this can't possibly get worse. Yeah, to some extent, like, I'm going to keep talking about the political situation, right? You know, it's my job to do the political analysis and I enjoy it. It's going to be fascinating to see this train wreck happen. But on a practical level, the reason why I talk about like the homesteading and the gardening and stuff is because, like, I have completely given up on the idea that we're going to have a country in a few years. Like, I don't know what or when exactly is going to happen, but I genuinely kind of think, you know, this is extending so far as, like, to do I want bottom surgery, actually? Like, yes, I want the genitals that I want. Like, I want to have that end result. But, like, for example, if you get phalloplasty and you need an implant, like a penile implant, that thing needs to be replaced every 10 years. So it's like, am I going to sign up for having like a thing that needs ongoing medical care? Am I even going to have the option to get a surgical intervention if it fails or something, like in 10 years? I don't know. Classic Onion headline: man who thought he'd lost all hope loses last additional bit of hope he didn't even know he still had. Yeah. I guess it's the black pill, sort of, but it's not just the black pill, because I'm not trying to lie down and rot. It's the black pill. So it's like, okay, how do I become 100% self-sufficient? Like, how do I make sure that when shit hits the fan, I'm not going down with the ship, basically. Connect with local anarchist groups. Get into local community before the USA splits into multiple city-states. One of the things that I do plan on doing is no matter where it is, you gotta know your neighbors. And hopefully I'll be able to have decent people around, one would hope. Radical self-reliance, basically. But I also recognize that, 100% radical self-reliance is probably not the way to go. We've seen Trump's platform and Project 2025. If they get into office, all trans healthcare is off the table, legally anyway. I mean, I don't know if they'll have the votes they need. It's it could be that we get Trump as president, but we get a blue Congress, or at least a blue one of the houses. So it's not like a guarantee that they're gonna kill trans healthcare all over the place, but yeah, obviously that is a concern, understandably, which is part of why I want to live in a state where I feel like they would actively be resistant to those laws, like sanctuary state laws. Are they really going to send in the fucking National Guard to prevent people who live in Washington state from getting hormones because it's illegal there? I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm saying, Dono Umayowo. In red states, obviously it would be very bad, but even if we had Trump as president, I think the blue states would still be relatively safe. I want to win the lottery and build a whole bunch of houses for my friends, and have thought about the most ethical way to do that and not be a landlord about it. Yeah, the thing is, my land is going to be, being actively renovated for a certain period of time for the sake of, hopefully finding some way to put more water into the land. And then there's going to be the whole gardening and farming aspect of it. And I how do you bring someone on and be like, okay, you can just stay over there in your little area, and I don't know, how do you do that? Do you require that they contribute some sort of form of labor? Do you just have them pay you $500 a month? I don't know. I don't really know what the best way to do that would be, which is why I'm just kind of focused on how am I going to be self-sufficient? And then it would be cool if I had neighbors around, but I don't know. I feel like I need to do more research on the whole commune, how people operate in small, we are so hopeful about the idea of making this work in these small communities, but okay, I bet you if you guys were to go, okay, who are other leftists who you think it would be good for me to have on the commune or whatever? If you just think, oh, Xander Hall, or Demon Mama and the Critters, any group of people, and I'm just throwing out other streamers as an example, but if any group of these people, you're probably going to find at least one, oh, these people really don't get along kind of situation. And it's okay, well, how do you live together? if it's so easy in small groups, as we see over and over with lefty communities, it's so easy to have a conflict over some stupid bullshit happening on Twitter, much more visceral interpersonal conflicts, I don't know, oh, you're trashing this area, I've let you come here and live on my land, and this area that I'm letting you guys live on is trashy and shitty, therefore it's causing issues, whatever, I don't know. Bring them on and start a local homeowners association. Oh god, that sounds terrible. Twitter level of petty drama really falls apart face to face. We can hope, I guess. I'm just saying that I do not know how to practically make it work, and I would have to think about it a lot more, Take a country full of people inundated with capitalist propaganda and put them in a post-apocalypse. You get lords and serfs. Seems simple to me. I mean, yeah. How do you, as the person who owns the land, not just become a lord? It's tricky. We're worried about with anything commune-like for our clients is our clients would need to be okay with living somewhere with more than basic expectations. That's what I mean, If we live in a village, okay, let's pretend capitalism never happened. Let's just say we live in a village of about 100 to 150 people, because that's kind of how humans are supposed to live. Everybody has a job. Even the disabled people in our community, have historically had jobs. We've seen, we know, looking at human anthropological historical record, that, we would keep alive people who had a disability, which means that they were probably doing something for us. They were minding the fire, while everybody else who's more able-bodied is doing labor that's more intensive, or they're minding the children, or they tell stories at night, even folks who are disabled are still contributing to the community, right? So there is an expectation, on a commune, where, you could call it in a village, because functionally they're the same thing. It's a small local economy that provides most of its own resources and trades for what it doesn't have. So, but like everybody has to be doing something, you know? If you want to continue being like primarily a Twitch streamer and you don't really want to do any physical labor, well, then you need to pay money. Or like ideally, you would be contributing some kind of physical labor. Like we're rotating out skills. You know, this week I would like you to feed the chickens every day. Next week I want you to weed this. Like you have to be willing to do something. If you can't do physical labor, then there's something else you need to be doing. You need to be minding the children or chopping vegetables in the kitchen or like balancing the books, something along those lines. Maybe if you're disabled, the thing that you can do is help manage the schedule, and you can be the person who assigns the roles, because the management itself is also quite difficult. Maybe you are the one who gets in contact with we need this plumbing thing fixed. So-and-so needs to get in touch with the plumber. You know, there has to be some kind of willingness. And so like, that's where you have to have the same values and you have to have the same like willingness to work within expectations. Teaching babysitting, yeah, has to be something. Have to contribute in some way. Sometimes I wonder if having internal conflicts within the left is better than the dubious right protecting all the toxicity within their circles. I kind of understand what you mean, Ramya, in the sense that the Republican Party, to some extent, is less fractious and therefore more capable of getting things done. Like, yeah, that's the appeal behind a dictatorship as well, is that, you know, the appeal behind authoritarianism is that there's no squabbling, things get done, there's no bureaucratic nonsense. This is one of the ways that fascists will fucking get you, is because they will harp on, and it is a thing that you should criticize about neoliberal society, that, oh, nothing ever gets done. It's like a joke in The Giver, the book The Giver by Lois Lowry, that they'll assign it to committee and they'll have a meeting and then nothing is ever going to get done. And they treat it like a joke, like nothing ever changes in the community. And so that is a bureaucratic like criticism to be made, that they just always kick the can down the road. I know, it's a great book. And so that is one of the appeals of authoritarianism and fascism, is like, yeah, well, the thing is that I don't really need to like wait for anyone's approval, so I can just get things done. Oh, you know what? I've decided that we need to build this bridge. And so guess what? We're going to build this bridge. There's no squabbling. There's no questions. There's no allocation of the budget. Like, it just fucking gets done because I said it needs to get done. There's an appeal to that, right? But how that actually works in terms of like, people want to be consulted about what they think about these things. You know, people want to have input in what's happening in their communities particularly. So that's the other thing, is I have all these things I've imagined about, if I were to buy some land, here's how it would go. This is what we would grow. These are the things we would produce, and I would plan to trade these things and stockpile this. I don't want to share the decision-making with anyone. Of course, the other side of that argument, yes, Mersh, is that knee-jerk bad ideas are not implemented disastrously on the whim of the dictator. Yeah. No dictator can be an expert in everything. They will eventually make enough mistakes that shit gets fucked. Well, yes, this is the whole idea behind, like, oh, you know, a good king listens to his advisors. And it's like, okay, you know, a good dictator would listen to the experts and consult and would assign committees to figure out what the best course of action would be. People having input can be weaponized too, like the UK laws about how if one person objects to renewable energy in a community, it cannot happen. I honestly think that they did that on purpose. Typical. I think that they made that the law. Oh, if only one person objects to renewable energy. So like, for example, I'm assuming that could be stretched so far as, if I don't like the way that your solar panels look on your roof, then you can't have them. I imagine that it could be that superficial, and I don't think that that's an appropriate amount of input from other people, for sure. Hi, thank you so much to all of my patrons, especially Tiago Nascimento, Mersh Rolvog, Amanda B., Michelle Frateroli, Michelle Winter, Wellington Marcus, Danielle McDonald, DZXN, Suzanne Maynard, Spooky Heather Sylvia, Jamie Jam, Pasnell Infinity, Nova, Elizabeth Bartell, Sojo, Sarah A., Athiet, Kevin Young, Celeste, Desi Quiche, Liam Hodgson, Mr. Atheist, and Ella V. Nobody.